The air is soft in Hamburg in the spring of 1809, and in a house filled with books and instruments, a child is born into comfort and culture. His family is Jewish, but wealthy, cultivated, soon to convert to Christianity for social acceptance in an age of prejudice. The boy is named Jakob Ludwig Felix Mendelssohn, though the world will know him simply as Felix. From his earliest days, the atmosphere around him is one of refinement. Where Schubert lived in cramped poverty and Beethoven battled landlords, Mendelssohn grew up with tutors, salons, and opportunities. Yet genius does not always come only from suffering. In Mendelssohn's case, privilege became a platform for astonishing productivity. By the time he was a teenager, he had written symphonies, concertos, chamber music, and songs that many composers would envy in a lifetime. Felix was precocious, but his was not a brittle prodigy. He was sturdy, genial, healthy in both body and mind. He had a gift for friendship and a love of travel. He read widely, spoke several languages, painted watercolors. In him, the romantic spirit took not the form of tortured storm, but of clarity, elegance, and balance. If Beethoven roared at the heavens and Schubert whispered of longing, Mendelssohn sang with luminous poise. From the start, music was his language. His sister Fanny, equally gifted, was his closest companion. Their home was a gathering place for intellectuals, artists, musicians. Felix and Fanny would perform their works at family concerts, their parents encouraging but also cautious. In that era, a career in music for a woman was discouraged, and though Fanny composed superb works, it was Felix whose reputation soared. Later in life, he would struggle with the unfairness of her being confined to domestic recognition, but in youth they shared joy in creation. A duet of siblings who understood one another's gifts intimately. By the age of 17, Felix wrote the octet for strings in E-flat major. It remains one of the miracles of music. Imagine a teenager producing a work of such exuberance, mastery, and structural innovation. The scherzo movement, light as fairy dust, would later reappear in his Overture to a Midsummer Night's Dream. That overture, composed at 17 as well, is another miracle. Its opening chords shimmer with magic. Its scampering strings conjure sprites and mischief. Its melodies flow with inevitability. Few works in history capture so perfectly the feeling of enchantment. Mendelssohn's music has sometimes been criticized for being too perfect, too polished, lacking the rawness of romanticism. But that judgment misses the point. His gift was for clarity without triviality, elegance without emptiness. He could write with fire. The storm of the Hebrides Overture proves it, but he chose often to refine rather than to rage. He was, in many ways, the classical spirit carried into the Romantic age, a bridge between eras. In 1829, Mendelssohn traveled to London, beginning a lifelong relationship with Britain. There he was received as a celebrity, his performances and compositions winning instant acclaim. His Hebrides Overture, inspired by his visit to Fingal's Cave in Scotland, depicts waves surging, seas rolling, nature in grandeur. He sketched the theme on the spot, sending it in a letter, to be played in the roar of the waves. Audiences marveled at his ability to translate landscape into sound. Later, his Scottish Symphony and Italian Symphony would continue this pictorial power, music that seems to carry you into places and atmospheres, evoking misty highlands or sunlit piazzas. Yet Mendelssohn's importance is not only in his compositions, but in his role as a cultural force. In 1829, he conducted Bach's St. Matthew Passion in Berlin, reviving a work that had lain neglected for nearly a century. That performance sparked the Bach revival, reintroducing the world to one of music's greatest treasures. Without Mendelssohn, Bach might have remained a composer for scholars rather than for the living concert hall. Mendelssohn revered the past even as he wrote for the present. He saw himself in a lineage: Bach, Handel, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, and he honored them while adding his own voice. He was also a conductor of immense skill, among the first to shape the modern profession. In Leipzig, he became director of the Gewandhaus Orchestra, raising its standards, commissioning new works, leading with precision and inspiration. Under his baton, audiences heard not only his music, but that of contemporaries and predecessors, establishing the canon of Western classical music as we know it. Later, he founded the Leipzig Conservatory, training generations of musicians. His impact was institutional as well as creative. But let us not lose sight of the music itself. His Violin Concerto in E minor is one of the most beloved in the repertoire. From its opening bars, the soloist enters immediately, no orchestral introduction, plunging us into lyricism and passion. Its melodies are unforgettable, its structure innovative, with movements flowing into each other. Every violinist must confront it, every listener delights in it. Then there are the songs without words, short piano pieces that embody Mendelssohn's genius for melody. Each is a miniature lied without text, a poem of sound. Played in salons across Europe, they made him a household name. In his choral works, Mendelssohn reached for grandeur. His oratorios Elijah and St. Paul echo Bach and Handel, filled with choruses that resound with faith and drama. Elijah especially has remained a staple of choral societies, its depiction of the prophet both majestic and human. Mendelssohn's sacred music shows his deep spirituality, though tempered by his Protestant upbringing after his family's conversion. He was devout, serious, yet never fanatical. His religiosity was of order and devotion rather than mystic ecstasy. Mendelssohn's personal life seemed at first charmed. He married Cécile Jean Renaud, a pastor's daughter, and their union was by all accounts happy. He balanced family, travel, composition, and conducting with apparent ease. He was admired, respected, beloved in drawing rooms and concert halls. But beneath the genial surface, pressures mounted. The constant demands of performing, directing, composing wore on him. His health was delicate, and the sudden death of his sister Fanny in 1847 devastated him. She had been his closest confidant, his mirror in music. Grief consumed him, and within months he too was dead, struck down by a series of strokes at only 38. His death shocked Europe. How could someone so vibrant, so accomplished, so seemingly untouchable be gone so soon? At his funeral in Leipzig, the city mourned as for a statesman. His place in music history was assured. Yet within decades, currents of prejudice would cloud his legacy. Anti-Semitic critics in the late 19th century diminished his stature, dismissing his music as superficial. The Nazis later banned his works outright, but time and honesty have restored him. Today we recognize Mendelssohn not as a footnote, but as a central voice of his century. What then defines Mendelssohn's greatness? It is his fusion of clarity and expression. His melodies sing, his structures are balanced, his orchestration luminous. He could depict landscapes, stir emotions, elevate the spirit. He preserved the classical virtues of form while embracing the romantic urge for color and feeling. His music is often described as beautiful, a word critics sometimes wield as insult. But in truth, beauty is its own revolution. In a century of turbulence, Mendelssohn offered harmony without banality, passion without chaos. Listen to his octet and feel the exuberance of youth, eternal. Listen to the Violin Concerto and hear lyricism that flows like speech, intimate and eloquent. Listen to the Hebrides Overture and feel the sea spray on your face, the grandeur of nature transmuted into sound. Listen to Elijah and be lifted by the chorus, faith turned into thunder. These are not trivial beauties. They are the gifts of a composer who knew how to speak directly to the human heart. Felix Mendelssohn was not a tortured soul like Beethoven, not a lonely wanderer like Schubert. He was, by all accounts, gracious, sociable, content in family life. But genius takes many forms. His was the genius of refinement, of inspiration shaped by discipline, of melody given wings by form. He reminds us that greatness is not only storm and struggle, it can also be clarity, elegance, light. He died young, but he left behind a body of work that continues to enchant and inspire. He revived Bach, elevated orchestras, trained musicians, composed masterpieces. He showed that music could be both art and joy, both serious and accessible. He was, in truth, a gentleman of romanticism, a figure who carried the torch of the past into the bright colors of the present. Produced by Selenius Media, music by The Artificial Laboratory.